Hey YouTube, this is Ben Waters. I'm here with Andrew Waters, my brother, who is a real estate professional along with me. However, he is an expert at flipping homes, and what he's not an expert on, he asks questions. So he's a smart guy. Today we're playing Deal or Deal Breaker. Basically, we're going to be talking about when looking at a home that you're thinking about purchasing for an investment property, for a flip or a rental, what factors can cause us to find something good that might have brought the value down before, but we can easily fix it, or can really break a deal and make us think we do not want this property. So let's get started. The first topic we're going to be talking about is landscaping. Talk to me a little bit about your first thoughts whenever you see a house with really bad landscaping.
Well, for the most part, I think it's pretty much a deal. Like, it's not a deal breaker, but it can be if you really don't factor in certain things. Like, if there's quite a few old trees on the property that really need to be taken down, that can cost a few thousand per tree. So say you got 3 huge trees that are leaning over top of it and it's $2,000 each because they're really leaning over top of it, that could be $6,000 that you would have to account for right off the bat. So you really need to be looking at landscaping. Most of the time it's pretty good, and if the grass is bad, you can like reseed it or put some rocks or put a pathway through the backyard if it's looking bad. But typically if there's big, huge trees, or we even had a renovating property where a tree's roots were actually going into the basement and causing the basement wall to cave in slightly. We actually were able to get that at a pretty good price because of that, but we did have to factor tree cost into that renovation.
So obviously with a tree, some older trees, that can be quite a job, and it can be a pretty costly job too if you don't account for that in your budgeting whenever you're looking at a possible investment property. Now let's say that, whether one of those trees is kind of up against the house, or there's like some ivy or vines growing inside the siding so much that it's kind of causing problems. What do you think about that? Does that cause a deal breaker on that?
Typically it's not a deal breaker unless, that house is starting to grow into the actual house, or if it's growing, this wouldn't be a deal breaker, but I see it very commonly. A tree grows up right next to a fence, and it can sometimes grow into that fence and cause some issues, maybe with your neighbor there. They might not be too happy, and you may have to pay to have that tree taken down and the fence changed so that it's not leaning either way or falling over. But typically those aren't too expensive issues. Now, we did have that one house on Miller Road that did have all that ivy growing into the side, and it actually did affect how the painters were able to paint it, and it did take quite a long time to take down. But thankfully we were able to remediate that pretty easily and just pull the ivy down, but you could definitely see where the ivy had been.
Okay, so overall with the landscaping, what do we say? 1, 2, 3. Say it's a deal. It's landscaping really is rarely a deal breaker for you. You see something with terrible landscaping, maybe some extra trees that you don't want that are going to have to get rid of. Most of the time, landscaping isn't that big of a problem. All right, topic number 2, structural issues. So with this, it's kind of a scary subject. Where do you specifically look, and what do you look for structural issues?
Well, structural issues definitely can be a deal breaker for sure. You can work around them, and you can find some pretty good deals that maybe would scare off other investors or other buyers. But typically the best place to start is either in the basement or taking a look on the outside, walking around. If it's on a slab, you look for a lot of cracks, and you look for stress cracks up in the walls. Sometimes, especially around here in Oklahoma, there can be stress cracks that are only caused by earthquakes. And it's definitely best to get inspection with the actual structural professional. He would be able to definitely tell you more in depth and also give you a history of earthquakes in the area. But I would say you look for some cracks around. You look for, if it's a brick house, if any brick is coming off of the wall, or you can look to the side of it and see if it's leaning anyway, or if any of the mortar is coming off of the brick, because sometimes in older houses they would build brick not actually as part of the foundation, but they like the look of it, and they would actually build it onto the wood of the exterior, so it's not actually super firm on there and can sometimes easily come away from the house. That could be a costly renovation because typically the wood siding is in pretty rough shape.
All right, so let's say that you do have something that's either leaning or there's some serious cracks and some serious structural damage to it. A repair like that, is it possible to salvage? I mean, this is kind of our deal or deal breaker thing here, but is it a pretty costly repair to fix something like that, and is it possible to fix?
Yeah, I would say the best way to tell is to get a general contractor out there to give you an estimate on what the repairs would look like, or what his best estimate of what he could do to remedy that, especially when you're looking to buy it. But it's always best to get an inspection, that's for sure.
All right, so overall, structural issues, 1, 2, 3, deal breaker. All right, topic number 3, let's talk paint. So we walk into a home, right? And you go in and the bathroom is bright pink. You walk in, each different bedroom is painted a different, strong, contrasting color. And the exterior is either spray painted or not painted at all, and it just looks like it's going to be quite a job on having to repaint it. Talk to me about this. Is this a scary thing in your eyes?
I'd say in most renovating projects that you're looking at, paint's going to be a big thing that you're going to have to factor in the cost. Not a huge deal breaker at all, because I mean, paint is very easy to apply and you can hire almost anybody to do that. But it is something that you have to factor a few $1,000s into. But most likely, if you're going into a house, you should already be expecting that you're going to have to repaint the entire thing, typically. What is kind of annoying to deal with is wallpaper, because typically in a lot of older homes, you cannot just paint over wallpaper. It'll bubble out and it'll look way worse than anything else. So you have to physically take time and remove all that wallpaper before you can apply any sort of paint. But the color of the paint, especially in a renovating project, that should never be a deal breaker for you. If the bathroom's pink, you were probably going to renovate the bathroom anyway and completely change the color.
Remember, guys, as investors, we're coming into this looking at numbers, all right? So keep in mind each one of these things as numbers, because a lot of times as consumers looking for our own homes, we come in and we say, oh my, that is some ugly paint. I want to get out of this room right away. And that just turns us off to the house completely, right? Whenever there's all that emotion in it, it can be really tough not to get wrapped up in that whenever you're thinking, this is my home. With investment properties, you have to think, okay, that's going to cost me this much. That's going to cost me this much. In total, what do the numbers tell me? That's how you look at an investment property.
And another thing with paint, any house that was built in 1977 or later is likely to have lead paint. And remediation of lead paint can be quite expensive. And if you just try to not remediate it, it could be quite hazardous to your health or anybody's health that is there. And you could be held liable with renovating a lead-based paint house.
It's important to keep yourself out of liability, as always. But let's say paint. 1, 2, 3. All right, last topic. Let's talk about outdated cabinets and outdated bathrooms. A lot of times walking into investment homes and investment properties, most of the older homes are going to have some really tacky, ugly, old, outdated cabinets and bathrooms. What do you think whenever you see these?
I mean, I think it's to be expected in most renovation properties. It's not too often that you come across a house that's going to make you a lot of money in a renovation and not have to do anything to the kitchen and bath. I mean, now that all has to be factored in, because typically that's where you spend your most amount of money, aside from maybe like a structural issue or something. Generally, updating the kitchen, renovating the bathrooms. Now, it is nice if you can salvage the cabinets, maybe repaint them, put some new hardware. New hardware makes a huge difference on cabinets. But typically, you're looking at redoing all the stuff in the kitchen, maybe adding new appliances to that. That's going to be really expensive, but also maybe doing new tile or renovating the whole bathroom, new tile, sink, shower, bathtub, toilet, all that stuff. But in the end, when people walk in, the kitchen and the bathrooms sell the house.
All right, so let's do the deal or deal breaker, and then we'll explain our reasons. All right, 1, 2, 3. Deal. You say deal breaker. Why do you say deal breaker? I mean, you just explained a little bit, but Why do you say deal breaker?
I say it definitely can be a deal breaker. Not all the time, like you were saying. We kind of had split decisions, but it definitely can be a deal breaker in that if you have 3 bathrooms to renovate and they all need serious renovations and they have holes or the bathtubs are destroyed, it's really something that you have to factor in, because you can't just do a half bathroom renovation. You can't just replace the toilet and have no sink or something. You have to completely redo that and sometimes add cabinets and stuff. So it's something that you really need to factor in. Or if everything's gone out of the kitchen, that's something that you definitely need to factor in. So why'd you say not deal breaker?
I would say I said deal because whenever I walk into a home and I see outdated cabinets or really old bathtubs and sinks and everything, I just think this is profit. This is really where we sell our homes. We come in here, we fix up these things, we make them modern. Everybody loves a nice modern kitchen with a big old sink or a big new sink, I should say, and beautiful cabinets, or at least repainted cabinets. That's actually something also why I said a deal, because sometimes when you have old outdated wood cabinets, if they're solid and they're still going strong, then sometimes it's just worth it to just repaint them rather than to tear them all out and to try to put in full new cabinets. So there is budget options to updating these things, and sometimes you just got to do it whenever the numbers are tight. But overall, you can get some good profit from these things, because that's really what does sell the home: renovating the bathrooms, renovating the kitchen.
Alright, but ultimately our goal is to turn every renovation into a deal.
Once again, guys, thanks for watching. I hope that this shed some light on renovating and maybe a little bit more knowledge into what it really looks like to flip a home. And so please give us a like, turn on the notifications for us, because we really appreciate it, and we thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a blessed day.